Hello, my name is Dina. I'm a graduate from Calvin University. I'm an ecologist and a horticulturalist. And today I am back at Hortech to review how we develop alliums as part of the Hortech Originals product line. If you're a serious gardener or designer, you've certainly noticed how alliums have surged in popularity over the last few years. That's for a few reasons. They are generally not favored by deer. They resist heat, cold, and drought. They are resistant to insects and diseases, and they're easy to grow. They also flower for a long time and support many pollinators. Alliums as a whole are related to chives and garlic. Some allium species are native, and there are several commercial selections and hybrids with beautiful foliage and flowers. The flowers are usually arranged in a round, ball-like configuration, and they're usually carried above the foliage and look like balloons, as you can see here. They may be as large as a tennis ball with some varieties. Here at Hortech, we've been crossing and selecting alliums for several years, and we've introduced several selections, notably for compact habit, attractive foliage, and relatively large flower clusters. And the fun part is we're still working on it, trying to find new, unique alliums. The whole process begins when the parent plants are in bloom. We take the pollen from one plant and place it on the stigma of another plant. For example, if we have a plant with nice foliage and another with nice flowers, we may cross them and hope for offspring that have both nice leaves and flowers. Another way to do this is to plant the two plants near each other and let the bees and butterflies do the work of cross-pollination. Next, we collect the seeds, induce them to germinate, transplant those seedlings, and grow them out for a couple of years to mature their characteristics as they mature. When we do this, we start with anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 seedlings, and we reduce them eventually down to 100 or 200, like the most promising ones. And we want these to have characteristics like more or larger flowers, unique flowers or leaf colors, maybe a curling leaf in a variety that doesn't usually have it, a tall or a short stature in something that is usually the opposite. Then, after another year or two of observation, the best of these 100 to 200 plants are divided up and placed in the ground for landscape trials. Then, 2 to 3 years after that, we'll decide if they merit moving on. And if so, we begin dividing them for future introduction, which may be a few more years after that down the road. The entire thing is a lot like the TV show American Idol, actually, except instead of making eliminations weekly, it happens over the course of years. And eventually the 5,000 or 10,000 original contestants are reduced to maybe 3 or 5 actual winners. So, with all of this as background, let's go for a little walk and see what's going on out in the field. As with everything, the field actually starts here in the greenhouse. These are some relatively new seedlings that won't be flowering this year, but they will be next year in the summer. These guys were collected from certain parents for certain traits, and we want to see if we can reproduce those traits and those characteristics. When these particular plants germinated earlier this year, they were upgraded from their germination tray into these plug flats. And once they are old enough, they will get upgraded again. From those plug flats in the greenhouse, the alliums will get upgraded and moved out here into 1-gallon pots. What you see now is year 1 of blooming, and it's here that we do a lot of the sorting and paring down to really determine what we're looking for at this large scale. This is what we were talking about earlier when we were saying American Idol, cutting it down from like 10,000 contestants to 3 real winners. We have hundreds and hundreds of individual alliums out here, all vying for a couple of spots in future catalogs. The specific species of allium here in this block is Shonoprasum. So those who may be familiar will know that these flower way earlier. So this entire block and a little bit farther down on our left have both already gotten several rounds of that sorting and setting things aside. It's when they're a big block like this that we can see, like from a distance, we might be thinking, oh, that color right there, obviously not right now, but that one right there really stands out. Let's go carefully weave our way through and grab that one, set it aside. Way down there, we'll make it there in a few minutes here. is the current short list area that we have. A good example and a good exercise here is to take a look at this block. I won't be totally zoomed in the whole time, but just for a couple of seconds, letting your eyes just wander over. The whole process revolves around finding something that is lighter colored than everything around it, or a more vibrant color, or longer lasting flowers, larger flowers. And when we spot something, we'll go and grab it, like I was saying, and we'll set it aside. Several rounds of that. And a good example would be right about here. These guys catch my eye. I don't think the camera will focus terribly well, but it's a deeper magenta pink than some of the stuff around it. You can also see, potentially, if the camera's picking it up, we've got a lot of honeybees flying around. I wish you guys could smell what I'm smelling out here, because this is that midsummer peak of allium bloom. So I've only moved a few feet farther down. We were just over there. We've passed the Schoenoprasum, and this is our remaining main body of candidates to be sorted through. We can see a lot of lighter colors, a couple, if I can zoom in again, right about there. Yep, it will not focus, unfortunately, but you can see a couple standouts. It might be species dependent that we know those will make the more vibrant colors, but it's also when we just let our eyes wander across that we can see, oh, that one's got larger flowers than the stuff around it. This one was blooming earlier than the others. Or there's one that is strikingly taller. We're also looking for good leaf habit, whether it's those spiral leaves that we do or don't want based on the variety, or leaf habit. We want to be seeing this stuff in the front is the best example, where obviously being on the far outer edge of the block of plants, they're going to get a little more of the heat and general wear and tear of the elements while they're all settled out here. But we're always looking at the leaves to see if they can hold that color if we don't have a lot of die off around the plant, because these are all things that obviously long term in the landscape we'll want to make sure that they can hold their characteristics. And finally, for our year 2 alliums, this is our short list pared down area. Apologies if I am talking louder or if the road noise is louder. We are as close as we're going to be to 104 there on the left, but we will power through. You can see this is the true hodgepodge mix and match. We have grabbed several varieties, several individual plants from our various blocks, and we just set these aside, let them run their course. We can keep an eye on them throughout the season. Particularly, I'm seeing right here in the front, if you see right above my finger here, those are quite a bit larger than the other flowers around them. But then, of course, immediately to the right and left, you see there's some of that deeper pink magenta. So it all just comes down to what are our individual flowers expressing. Do we have more of these solid white, or can we find something that's big and pink or big and white? This is another really nice standout. It's obviously still reaching its peak of flowering, but yeah, these are the ones we will have our eye on the closest. These are the individual plants. As you can see, you know, they get quite happy, quite filled out in these 1 gallon pots. So when the time is right, early next year, the individual pot will be divided potentially into, you know, 5, 10, or 15 plants. It will get its own little block, and we'll see that out in the field later on where year 3 and year 4 comes in. But this is where we find ourselves for year 2. Alrighty, welcome out to the fields where we have our year 3 and year 4 growth of alliums. As you can see, we've got clusters of grouping blocks really out here. This is all one that was divided up and now has been in the ground for several years. We've got another there, and as we walk, and I try not to trip on anything, you can see how there's a lot of cleared out space. And a good example is right over here. I will zoom in. That is a block that has very recently been dug up, cut down, and will be rototilled 1 or 2 times down in to recycle the soil out here, because we are constantly using and reusing the space as we watch these particular allium blocks in their 3rd, in their 4th year of life. You can see these 2 rows here are much larger than the rest. These are partial blocks of what could be, let me zoom back out, of what could be a full row. I mean, this whole area, you see we've got a lot of space that we're working with, a lot of stuff that we're trialing. So these are 2 partial rows. They are promising, they're upcoming alliums, and we can see farther back there, we don't need to walk all the way back, that we have a couple more islands of alliums that are doing well, and they may eventually, if they are doing well enough, they may make it to our next stop, which is the long-term year 5, year 6, and beyond, as our selections get closer and closer to becoming full-on additions to the product line. And now we have arrived at year 5 and beyond. This particular variety, all 4 of these rows, are Allium Millennium. And those of you familiar will know that that is an industry staple right now. That and another like Summer Beauty are very popular. They're well established. They've got a good reputation in the landscaping industry right now. So while this is not a Hortech original, it is definitely a standard by which we hold our entries accountable and comparable to make sure that we are bringing in only the best to this industry. Now this is the part we have all been waiting for. These are all of our Hortech originals all together for our allium varieties. Starting off, our first couple of rows here are Allium Pink Moon Rising. Now this one is a great comparison to Millennium, as it is significantly taller and it's got great wind response. Just a few feet down from Pink Moon Rising is Allium All Aflutter. This is another good one with Millennium as a point of contact, point of comparison. All Aflutter is also much taller, and it's got larger puffball flowers than Millennium does. It's got a similar color, but the taller habit makes it an appealing pick. And immediately next to it, we have Bee's Knees, another Hortech entry. This one, comparatively to Millennium, has more flowers in general, and it's a bit more of a compact plant than Millennium is. You can see with the slightly shorter growth habit, this row over here was planted more recently. This one's been in the ground and has had a little more time to develop. Another note I wanted to add about Bee's Knees here really quick. Earlier in the video, you saw a couple of shots from the entrance to Hortech's property, and this is the sole variety that was used in all of those plantings. So it is pretty standout. Those guys over at the entrance have not fully reached their bloom yet, and similarly here, there is a bit of a staggering, you can see, to the peak bloom times for each variety of allium, and that can add to the decision-making process, both for us here in the R&D process and when it's time to pick out what we're going to be planting. Right here we can see 1, 2, 3 more rows of Allium Millennium. It is just that popular of a plant, and it's a great comparison here with more proximity. We've got our rows of Millennium here. We've got a couple more varieties that are out in the catalog. And then back there, those are some of those Hortech originals that we were just looking at comparing to Millennium. So you can see even from the distance here, they certainly have that taller growth habit. Some are more compact, some are flowering more. And that is the standard that we are trying to meet and oftentimes exceed whenever possible. We have walked down a few more feet here to see Allium Mini Milli, which, as the name suggests, is a miniature of Allium Millennium. This one we can see has slightly darker stems, a shorter, more compact habit, and similarly it is slightly delayed in its bloom time. It is not quite at its peak yet, it probably has another few weeks or so. The last variety that we'll be looking at on our Hortech Originals Allium tour is this one right here, Allium Balloon Bouquet. This is a dwarf of its parent plant just next door, Allium Summer Beauty, and that was the aforementioned industry standard alongside Allium Millennium. It's always a good grower, consistent bloom time, consistent growth and habit, and Balloon Bouquet is, as you can see, a very clear dwarf. And just like that, we are back at Hortech at the end of our Hortech Originals Alliums tour. Just behind me, we've got Pink Moon Rising here. The honeybees are out en masse. And over here, we've got Humble Bumble, just to name a couple of the Hortech Originals that we've seen today. We went through the whole process from seed germination to upgrading to field observation to finally out here. These are some of the many plants that will get pulled from by our shipping team to go out to the various growers and garden centers that we work with. From Hortech itself to our licensed growers, we are getting Hortech Originals out there to keep up with the solid competition that is out there in the Allium world. Again, my name is Dina, and I am happy to have led you along on this little tour. Have a good one.